Um, I don't want to start recording yet.
I'm sorry. Take attendance. Water Resources Advisory Committee of April 1st, 2024. Before we get started, we have a quorum. Mary, if you're here. Hi, Mary. Can you hear us?
Yes, I'm here.
There you go. Mary, are you here?
Yes.
Is our volume up?
I'm here.
Yeah, it's all the way up.
Okay. Anyways, David, can you hear us?
I'm here. I could hear Mary.
Mark?
All right, yup, here.
Well, that's 3. Will,
Hi.
John, and myself. That's 6 at the moment. We don't have Lee. George excused himself.
Jeff, is there a clicker for the television? Maybe just the television volume.
I bet you could the basketball too. All right, I might as well get started. Let us know if you can't hear us for any reason, those of you who are online. Do you want to get us started?
All right, I'm going to start with just picking up where we left off last month on the groundwater discharge permit. We continue to make ground with Mass DEP. Either we're going to wear them out or they're going to wear us out, but they keep asking for more information. We're responding to them. If you recall, we're looking for an initial discharge permit of approximately 1.5 million gallons a day amongst the 3 different sites we're focusing on. But at this point, we feel like we're trying to get them to agree on a discharge limit for Buck Island Road, since that's the one that has the most information for them to review. If they issue that permit, then that'll allow us to get the authorization to award for the construction contract for the water resource recovery facility. Just jumping down, I'll go down to like item E on the progress report. One thing that CDM Smith mentioned is that the town, along with CDM Smith, are talking to the Bayberry Hills Golf Course about the need for some additional irrigation water. So that's also good news that we're presented to DEP, that even during the summer months, they may need as much as 250,000 gallons a day of irrigation water, which would come and as a third or fourth alternative to offset some of the discharges for the groundwater. Last month, I think we mentioned that the town was hiring a wetlands consultant, Horsley Witten. There were some people at the Conservation Commission meeting. Horsley Witten presented and defended a application. That application's been a decision on that application is postponed until May 2nd. The Concom asked for some additional information on the wetland monitoring plan. So CDM Smith is in the process of amending the plan along with Horsley Witten for resubmission to the Commons for the May 2nd meeting. And then in a meeting that we had in conjunction with CDM Smith and the town DPW staff, we had a discussion about looking at an October 31st kind of drop dead date for the state revolving fund funding, and the low interest loan and some of the loan forgiveness, working our way backwards. We came up with a date of late May, which would kind of be our preferred date for advertising for the water resource recovery facility, putting that back out on the street. One of the things that we require to do before we can re-advertise that is we have to put out notifications to the general contractors and subcontractors for pre-qualifications. So those packages have been sent to the town and to the central register, and they'll be published this Wednesday. So we have we're notifying the same contractors that submitted before to make sure they still have interest in the project, which we're fairly confident they do. They've been calling us all along. But we just have to go through the formal motion of pre-qualifying them before the bid packages go out. And our next workshop with DEP is scheduled for a week from tomorrow, April 9th. So we've had I think we're establishing a very good relationship with them and helping make progress towards them issuing a permit. I have to commend Carolyn Heisen from CDM Smith. She's been working very diligently at this and is meeting with DEP wetlands folks and the conservation agent on the Buck Island Road site tomorrow. And it's to introduce some of the DEP wetland staff to the project. They attended the last meeting for the first time. Related to the water resource recovery facility final design, as I mentioned, we are reissuing the request for pre-qualifications. The bid documents are essentially ready to go. There was discussion about additional treatment that would be required if we go to the Bayberry Hills Golf Course or this what we're calling the Station Ave Mass DOT properties. Because they are located in the Zone 2 drinking water areas. But in conversation with the town and the designer, we feel as though that additional treatment that may be required could go out as a separate contract later. And that the plans as they stand pretty much should be advertised as they are. So we're looking for a May 22nd advertisement date. And as I mentioned, we will see the request for pre-qualifications in both the local paper and in the central register this Wednesday. I'll turn over the collection system updates to Mike, since I think that's part of his presentation.
Okay, before you start, Mike, Lou ran through his memo pretty quickly. Anybody online need any additional detail or explanation? This you would have gotten in your package on Friday.
Question, folks,
That's a good question. So Mark's trying to talk, I'm just not sure what we're hearing.
So since you guys can hear us, we're having difficulty hearing you, so let's figure that out in a minute. And in the meantime,
So, yeah, my quick question is, obviously, I'm happy that you're happy, that you're making progress.
We're
but
making progress.
It looks like, if I understood the timeline, if we're pulling everything back to the end of May, then there's probably 4 or 5 more meetings left with DEP to get to the end of May. So, you guys know that. Do they understand the urgency of the timing of the situation?
We wrote a letter today. We were looking at
Yeah, we
together.
did.
And I sent it to the director of the Southeast Regional Office, and basically, we were pointing out all of the deadlines, and we're asking them, that, look, we want to continue to work on all of the details that are going to lead to the final permit.
Right.
But we would like to get the approval now to advertise. And, one other trivia point from our last.
Lori
meeting,
can hear us.
that I mentioned.
They can hear
And I think
us.
it's a little bit of a sign of the
She
progress.
can hear him.
When we started this, these
I don't
bi-weekly
know.
meetings with the DEP, they had been kind enough to draft for us a draft denial letter to help guide our efforts. And they uncovered at our last meeting that they're working internally on a draft permit now. So to move from a draft denial letter to a draft permit, we're making some progress. So hopefully it keeps going.
Great, thank you.
good luck.
can you guys hear me?
Unless we can get you one.
That's the best we've heard.
We're working on it.
Go ahead.
Okay, all right, I'll hold.
Go ahead, Mark.
I think we're quiet.
Can we go back to the discussion on the wetlands issues? Was there, just as far as specifics go, and I don't need the board bring up too much technical, but what's the specifics about an issue between the commission and the consultant for the town on the wetlands? I mean, is it boundary issues? Is it type of wetlands? What's the issues?
I can,
So do you want to get that?
yeah, I can shed a little light on that, Mark. I think
Okay.
none of us anticipated or expected that the commission would close the hearing and issue an order of conditions. It's just this is a new process, a new concept. So the idea for the initial meeting was just to present as much information as we could, and it was a lot of information for people who haven't been, dealing with this from day one to absorb. So, although it may sound like there was an issue, there really wasn't. We certainly did not expect, because we didn't have all the information that the commission would need to make a decision and issue an order of conditions. So we weren't surprised that the hearing wasn't going to get closed, and that wasn't what we expected. So the meeting tomorrow is to start the process of identifying specific species associated with each of the wetlands that could be impacted by the discharge at the Buck Island Road site. And that's some of the information that the commission needs in order to make a decision on the order.
So the order of conditions is to accept the delineation of the wetlands and to perform work. Is that basically what we're talking about?
No, this is a brand new process. In fact, it's never been done before. But the order of conditions will approve a monitoring plan that is going to be ongoing at the site based upon surface water wells, groundwater wells, as well as other technical data that's still being developed, which is part of the reason for the meeting tomorrow, to get DEP wetlands up to speed with the work that's been done so far and what needs to be presented at the May 2nd Conservation Commission meeting to gain an order of conditions. So it's not something that we can point to any examples of what's happened in the past. It's not for construction purposes because it's really groundwater impacts for wetlands, and it's not something that's been pursued in any other jurisdiction, certainly not in Yarmouth. So it's a new process that everyone's still figuring out, but we're making progress.
And this is being driven by DEP?
DEP is requiring us to go through the notice of intent and order of conditions process for this project because of groundwater impacts, yes.
Okay, thank you.
So there's been a question offline from another member. Is something going on with Lee? We need to.
He's trying to join the meeting.
Okay.
Looks like he's on.
So Mike, you want to continue with collection system?
Sure. I think we covered everything on the water resource recovery facility. Just starting that pre-qualification process again. In terms of the collection system, some of you have seen some construction activity going on. That's associated with contract 3, which is the South Shore Drive, Route 28 area down in that and Seaview Ave. They've started construction today. They've been doing some prep work over the last couple of weeks in terms of setting up their dewatering wells along South Shore Drive. Contract 2, in the process of mobilizing. The last schedule I saw, they were supposed to start actual construction next week. As far as I know, I haven't heard anything differently. We have a progress meeting, contract 2.
Contract 2. I think it's this week. Yeah.
They're going to be out there this week.
Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of activity, you start to see a lot of equipment around town, traffic starting to be impacted, and construction is underway. Contract 4, which is the Route 28 North Main Street, Old Main Street intersection. As I mentioned last time, the DP has given us approval to bid that. We're in the process of trying to finalize the bid documents right now, in coordinating with the MassDOT roadway designers to get them the final drawings. Their package is going out this week. 100% submittal. That process for that project, and they have a long delayed period, which is why the town's going to go out to bid separately for that project, as we're talking about. And then contract 5 and 6, we're still pushing along, trying to get that design cleaned up and ready for them as well later this spring. Here. I think we've covered everything on the groundwater discharge permit. Obviously, that's been the main focus. A lot of our efforts had a couple of meetings since the last time we met. Next meeting is next week. Land use controls, again, as part of the SRF approval letter that the town received a few weeks ago, that indicated that they met all the qualifications for 0% financing, and one of those requirements of the land use controls. We sort of, although we didn't necessarily direct approval, the fact that the town got the SRF approval letter for the 0% loans indicates that they've met all the criteria, including the land use controls. So we're still following more up with DP just to get specific approval of that document so that that can get incorporated and approved on the town side. MassDOT highway permits, we got comments back a couple of weeks ago. Contract 4 for that permit, we're in the process of addressing those. Nothing too troubling. I was hoping to get that turned around and back into MassDOT for their review later this week or next week. And then the contract 5 and 6 submittal is supposed to go out this week as well. Then we'll be following up with Conservation Commission submittals for contract 5 and 6 as well. Talked last time about the ZBA hearing back on February 22nd. That was continued until May 11th. We have submitted the additional information to address the concerns that were raised at that last hearing. So hopefully that will satisfy their questions and their concerns and get that closed out.
April, I think you said.
Oh, I did say that. I'm sorry. Yes, thanks.
So that's it for updating progress report. It's got a few memos. So if the committee would like to go back and review, information is here. Guys available for questions now, in case anybody wants to ask.
Mr. Chairman, regarding, I just want to get this straight, and because I'm here and everything's going on back home. If a property owner has questions regarding where the Y is being dropped off in relation to their system, my understanding is that people are supposed to contact the Wright Pierce resident project rep to coordinate that, to make sure it's in the right location. Am I correct in assuming that?
That is an ongoing process, and he's been meeting with homeowners and getting letters in from homeowners, either concurring or having questions. Some people just didn't understand, what it was that we were asking them to do, so.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of them contacting the rep either by email or phone and then going from there, right?
Let me interject, because I saw one of those letters recently and I have a question regarding it. In the letter, there's a contact information to call you guys. pretty general, pretty generic.
Nick was on site.
Yeah, I'm not sure his name was in there, but nevertheless, it directs them to you. So the property owners who are affected in phase one through these first couple of contracts have already gotten their letters. And that's who's been responding. So they came to me instead first. So I'm gonna use this hypothetical just to sort of play it out. Commercial property owner with multiple septic systems. We did not go to the map on purpose, but if I go to the map, I'm most likely to find one connection.
Correct.
But his inclination is he's getting multiple connections.
Yeah, I think early on, one of the discussions we had with town staff and the policy that was, and which is typical for any town, is one service per parcel. Right? That's pretty standard, so that it's up to the property owner if he has multiple systems.
Well,
Obviously, that's more difficult, but it's up to him to combine them.
Therein lies the rub, because fairly complicated properties are developed over time, and maybe even been combined.
Sure.
Have multiple systems, and some come with the old buildings and it's in the back, some come with the new buildings and they're in the front, and then there's some on the side, but nevertheless, it's several hundred linear feet separating them all. And you are suggesting that we drop a connection in somewhere along that frontage and then have them aggregate the three systems, or the interruption of the three systems, to one point, regardless of whether they are gravity or pump, or a combination of gravity or pump, to, for lack of a better term, convenience the project. So what would it take to get multiple connections? We're talking about 9 water meters in this particular project, property.
That person needs to contact the, either email or telephone what is in the documents they've received. We can't talk hypothetically as to a property and, this connection and that connection. Now, there is opportunities for changes, and that's why the letter is going out. So if there is somebody that has a good case for multiple connections, we need to go through the process of demonstrating the need and talking them through that. And that's why the letter is going out to everyone.
I mean, my suggestion was get your professional people on board now as this process starts to play out, because you're going to need them anyways later, and figure out exactly what you have in the ground, where it is, how best it gets to the street, and together with the project, you'll be able to figure out the right answers to that question. But you will be open. You're going to be getting those kind of questions. I think it's early, although the letter has a date in it as well. You should be contacting you guys about.
I think that it has a date of like 2 or 3 weeks, something like that. Obviously, the process is ongoing, and some people won't even see that sewer main in front of their property are being installed for another year or two.
Right.
So there is time.
My thought was that this is not going to happen tomorrow. We probably got a year ahead of you to worry about in some cases.
Depending where they are, but as I said, construction starting,
Yeah, of course,
so
because-
they're hanging wise, as we speak.
So that's what's coming to you. Not that I know that specifically, but I suspected that those would be the issues along the way, and we have a process by which they would go through to kind of address it.
Yes, Jeff said they should respond to the letter with their concerns and questions.
We've given multiple ways to do that: email, telephone, letters. We've received some correspondence here. We've received calls here. So really, there should be plenty of opportunities for people to engage in that dialogue with us about where they prefer that, and we can work with our design team to make sure they get the preferred connections.
Understood. Any other questions? I mean, you guys want to download any more information? No?
No,
I don't think so.
I think that's
No.
everything. There was one item on the water resource recovery facility that an email just came in. We had submitted the plans to DEP to review, back in January, and we just got an and the email requesting a meeting this Thursday to review their comments on it. So that's very timely, because if there are things that have to be adjusted, you can make those adjustments prior to bidding.
Just an operational question, the pond at Bayberry Hills, is the existing pond, is that used to store treated water that coming from our existing septic treatment operation?
There is direct irrigation as well as a pond that's used for irrigating.
Pond is used as a buffer to hold water.
The pond is used as storage for some portion of that flow there.
Will we be able to use the pond as we add capacity?
The existing pond won't handle the capacity that we need it to. So there's discussions ongoing about how to enlarge that or create another pond. That's all part of the ongoing dialogue and what we're working through right now.
Something every day. I didn't think you could bring that stuff to the surface.
We currently do.
Any other questions from the committee for consultants? Should we bask in the glow of success for groundbreaking for a minute? Bob did a great job pulling that together and bringing all the important players to it. We got lucky with weather and location.
It was a nice.
And it was a great start to the project. Probably a good luck omen. So hoping to build on that. Had the EP in the House, our legislative delegation in the House, and I think there was general consensus that they would be working together to get this project done. I think they want to come to the next groundbreaking as well and not get held up by some issues that didn't allow us to get to the next phase. With that, some of the committee members have noticed activity on the street. Anybody want to report anything they wanted, had questions about or saw that they want to share? John almost fell into a hole on South Avenue.
Well, it's great to see it. I went to take a ride this afternoon and see the work on 28 underway, and work on South Shore. Just great.
So with that will come some issues with the public, hopefully not too many and hopefully not too severe. We haven't heard anything in the last week or so, some activity out there from anyone yet. Just looking for that feedback in case public states we may have encountered.
No,
Questions of the
the
public.
social media stuff, I think, has been great too, whether it's, been the communication team, they had their funny little videos on trying to talk everyone into getting, signed up for the updates. And the police department also had some, great stuff out there, letting people know in advance of this week where the work was going to be taking place. And so it's good to see social media presence out there.
Is there a process by which the public can go to on a daily basis to see where they're going to encounter the project, or might encounter the project?
Well, we've been steering people to Waves. That's the daily interaction of where work is going, your best way to get through town or get around that construction. As far as a weekly or 3-week look ahead, the town's wastewater construction webpage, that's the 3-week look ahead for both contractors, both contract 2 as well as contract 3. And when there's changes, we update that. And so there will be changes, but at least if you go into that as of today, that's where we expect them to be working over the next 3 weeks. And the daily interactions are through Waze. That's the best technology that we're funneling people to.
Right, so for them to find that, they would come to the town's website and be directed to the widget that's on our site.
That's right at the top banner, says wastewater construction.
And independent of our website, are we sending proactively information out to the public?
We do have the notify me that does go out to people. That's periodically, that's not daily.
So what I heard, yeah, agreed. I mean, I'm sure that we can keep their attention on a daily basis, but I was I was bumping into it. John mentioned it, that driving through Barnstable, listening to the radio, we will get updates from the local news station about different sites or parts of town that are affected by construction. So I'm guessing that town of Barnstable Department of XYZ is sending out notices to the media periodically, if not regularly, to say we're going to be at Strawberry Hill Road, or we're going to be at the West End Rotary, or whatever it happens to be going on that day. Is that something we can do, are doing?
I'm not sure exactly how Barnstable's doing it, but we do have our communications director, and we have regular meetings with Paul Sullivan's, Rory Sullivan and Paul Chalky, and they're getting the word out. As was mentioned before, the social media piece has been a big part of it recently. As far as getting out to radio and television, I have to talk with them to see what that current plan looks like.
For these two contracts, is this, I can't remember, is this work going just till Memorial Day or is it going into June? Can't remember.
As far as these two contracts, there's work that's ongoing year round until they're done. There's areas where they're not going to be working, whether it's because of Mass DOT not allowing it on Route 28 between Memorial Day and Labor Day.
Okay.
Or the town not allowing work on South Shore Drive with the beaches and resorts and all the activity that's happening there between Memorial Day and Labor Day. But work will be ongoing until the projects, both contracts are done.
Okay.
We have a housekeeping article at the town meeting on the warrant.
2 articles.
Two.
So the first article is to accept the provisions of Mass General Laws, Chapter 80 and Chapter 83 relative to authority to assess the betterments. And the second article is a bylaw that specifies the mechanisms for making those assessments as well. It's just the next step in the process for them.
Is there a preview of that presentation or that article? Scheduled selectmen's meeting?
It's scheduled for the April 9 Board of Selectmen meeting, and we're going to do some special slides on the bylaw and run right through it
Okay, so next week.
next week.
As is always the case, we're invited to attend the selectmen's meeting, but do you require any of us to be there for?
No, not required. Very much welcome.
Okay. I added an agenda item just as a placeholder so we can have a more broad discussion if needed, if wanted. On occasion, members of the committee are expressing their interest or concern about a certain part of the project that isn't necessarily being taken up in a technical manner, not even be on the agenda, but we want to shortchange the discussion by not allowing during these meetings. The reason I asked it to be called public outreach is I personally think that we're going to need to be available to the public come the fall. Not right now because the project's just getting started and we're not out there as much. But by the time the project gets back into full swing after Labor Day, I think our engagement with the public is going to be necessary because we're going to be bumping into them in so many more points of the project. The process by which we go out to the public or have been out to the public previously yielded some results for us. It was very successful. We made ourselves available. We made our information as transparent as possible. We took questions until there were no more questions at these sessions. And I think it went a long way to getting us some credibility on our way to a town meeting, which authorized a couple $100 million for the project. I'm not saying it's necessary, but I think it might be something that we would like to do come the fall. But in order to do it then, we probably should start thinking about it and planning it now. I'm not sure what it looks like exactly. I'm not even sure you all agree with the necessity of doing something like that. But I wanted to put it out there and say, by the time they start yelling at us, it'd probably be a good idea to be out there taking the flag for not necessarily you guys, but the selectmen, the town, and the committee itself. Although this committee is available to the public to participate by just tuning it on, it's not very likely that they're going to. And case in point, nobody's on this one. Come September, they might figure out how to find us and then jump on board or come to these meetings. Whether we do it here or whether we do it someplace else, I want to make sure that everyone in town knows we're available to address their questions, issues, concerns. And if that's a good starting point for discussion, let's hash it out. If not, chime in on your own for whatever you might think is appropriate.
I would just say, given the increased frequency of their meetings, the select board seems to be a natural outlet or a place to potentially guide people towards, because they're going to tend to get quicker responses. Does that make sense? What I'm trying to say? I'm not saying that I'm not trying to ignore the responsibility or the purview of this group, but I just meant that if we only meet the first Monday of the month, then the actual engagement with this group during a meeting is less likely than it would be at a select board meeting. But I agree that's parallel to just being generally available or being made available. Does that make sense?
This is 2 years ago now. We went out to 4 neighborhoods, on 4 different occasions, not as the committee. It was just a special public availability, publicized, and we moved it around town to make it easier for the different folks who live in different villages to attend. And we got a subset of each part of town there, a couple dozen people at each one. Spent an hour and a half presenting and answering questions. And that was all before the more formal process that town undertook to roll out the project before town meeting. In combination, I think it's what got us to where we ended up at town meeting, most unanimous project in that room. We can't turn this meeting over to the public. It's not what I'm suggesting. As a matter of convenience, if you wanted 5 o'clock call it a day and then start taking public comment here, because we're all here, we could do it that way. That's just a matter of convenience. We had consultants. We had Dave in the room on occasion, and that was you attended all of them. So we had some technical backup at those. You guys would probably be asked to attend as well. At the groundbreaking, I buttonholed the chief of police and suggested that we might have him in the next few months just to get him familiar with us and so on, and us with them, to make sure that if they need anything from us, we're available, and vice versa. And he was more than excited to come by and be part of this discussion as they become more important to the project on the street. That may hold true of other folks in town as well. But that's the kind of openness and availability that's just suggesting. We had committee participation at those meetings a couple of years ago, and we can plug ourselves in as need be, as warranted as well. So it's not designed to be extra work as much as to make sure that we are available when the public needs us to be. And to be honest, I've never been a fan of 4 o'clock meetings because so many people cannot attend. By the same token, our demographic is you can't have 7 o'clock meetings because then there's so many people who can't attend them either. So you're kind of constantly moving it around, hoping that they catch you when they can. Any thoughts? Anybody else? So you need to monopolize the article. Item on the agenda. Fair enough. That's my saying. Food for thought for the next time. If anybody's concerned, for example, we didn't delve into it today. If the discharge permits really start to become reality, start pushing us to additional discharge sites. Actually, town's going to come. We're going to come back with some sort of cost estimates for stuff like that. And I know there's been some concern on the committee about what that's going to do to our budget. We're not ready to go there yet, but when issues like that start to come to mind, we should probably be putting them on the agenda so we can discuss them in earnest. That's okay for today? Fair enough. I'm gonna go to the next item. Then. I have a couple of meetings, a couple of minutes from meetings in February, March. You would have got this in your package on Friday. I'll entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes from February 5th before we can discuss them. John moves and Will seconds.
Sure, I will gladly second the minutes of February 5th.
Any changes to them? Any corrections? Having none, all in favor? David?
Aye.
Mark? Mark, wait if it's yay.
Aye.
Mary? Lee?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
John? Myself, all aye. Moving to the minutes of March 4th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from March 4th.
Second.
Moving to approve, David?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Mary? Lee?
Aye.
Will?
Yeah.
And John? Also aye. All right, thanks for that.
Mr. Chairman,
Have a
Sorry,
question for Mark, online, go ahead.
I muted myself and I didn't realize I'm yelling at myself here. So to follow up on what you were just saying a few minutes ago, as far as involvement with the general public and the committee, are you looking to do some kind of general meetings like we did initially, on the like you say, the different neighborhoods or whatever? Or are you looking for one meeting just to kind of hear what's being said, or what's the gist of what?
For right now, I was looking for discussion around it and then maybe concurrence that we should be doing that in the fall. Whether it's one meeting or more than one availability, whether it's one location or more than one location. Just wanted to gauge the committee's interest in doing it.
Basically to get feedback on as the project progresses, right?
Well, the 7 or 8 of us have become relatively expert on the project.
Yeah.
The schedule on the plant, the schedule of contracts on the street, what's going on with DEP and whatnot. And I would be surprised if there's a lot of people in town that can keep up with that kind of change. And that's, to be quite frank, why we were appointed to be that proxy for the town. But on occasion, it's probably appropriate, a year and a half after town meeting, we go back out there and say, okay, this is where we stand. We have a permit, we have bids, you've seen construction, projects moving forward, and there's the schedule. And if you happen to be in phase 1 and you have issues, let us know. If you have to be in subsequent phases and you want to know what likelihood those are and when they are, then this is your chance to ask. What you don't want is folks showing up at a critical point of the project with those kinds of issues and concerns when you need them, for example, at a town meeting. Just looking to do the homework before.
Understand. Yep.
Mr. Chairman?
And I'm bringing it up in April so we can, have 4, 5, 6 months to decide if that's a good idea. David, go ahead.
Yeah, when I talk to my neighbors in my beach association, they're less interested in what's going on now than what's going on in the future with costs individually, what the timeline is for their neighborhood. How will they be charged for using the system? And those are questions I know whether we're ready to answer them, we're going to be asked. And I just want to put that out there. Because those are the questions I'm getting now.
I'm still in favor of doing these types of gatherings, even if we don't have the answers, because then we'll at least know what the questions were.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Lee.
yeah, just a general thoughts. Maybe in the fall, we might be in a position to have a couple meetings for the public. You know, I think a lot is going to depend on, you know, how well we're doing financially with the projects, how the bids come in, and how we are we staying on budget or are we going over budget? That to me is a big item. Also, I'm sure the public at some point is going to want to know how the treatment plant is going to work, and we really don't have a lot of those answers now, but hopefully by the fall we'll have some answers from DEP about the permit and that kind of thing. And then there's also the look ahead. People are probably going to be interested in when, you know, knowing when we're going to get to their neighborhood type thing. So I'm thinking along the lines similar to what you're saying, in that as we move along here, we should be thinking about what we need to tell the public as we go, and think about having some of these public meetings. We may be in a situation where we need to go to these meetings to let people know how we're doing, whether we're on budget, on schedule, or things are happening that have changed things. There's also the issue of, you know, what's going to be the next priority phase? Where are we going from there? So I'm just putting it out that the committee as a whole should be thinking about us talking to the public at some point to inform them of where we are and where we're going.
Thanks, Lee. Agreed. Okay to leave it at that for now?
Yeah.
Moving on, first Monday of May is May 6th. Is that a good day to meet? I don't know, it's the day after Cinco de Mayo. 4 o'clock here. I lost track of the town meeting.
April 30th,
So it will be the weekend, the week before.
right, and then I think May 16 is your election, so right.
Right in the middle, as long as that doesn't conflict. May 6th,
Sounds good.
all right. And Mr. Bishop, do you have anything you want to bring up to us?
I do, but unfortunately, I'm not able to release the information yet. So I apologize. It's pretty significant.
So, a variation of I know something you don't know.
Try some detail.
My sandbox.
Right back to the
If you had to guess, how long would you say the rack is going to continue? Years?
Has been here
How long is this committee going to stay in place? Or is it-
for longer than any one of us is still be here.
Well, I think that's a good question. I mean, isn't part of what we're voting on at town meeting is establishing this board of sewer commissioners? I'm using the term loosely.
Well, the Board of Selectmen is the Board of Sewer
Right,
Commissioners,
for
and it
now.
just reiterates that
Right,
whole
but
situation.
That may or may not be a but that may or may not be a permanent thing.
Yes.
But will be. So that's literally, they're gonna have both those jobs, because they don't have enough jobs. So they're gonna have more jobs.
That's pretty standard.
Cool. All right, I didn't realize that.
But we're gonna keep the rack, because historically, you know, the rack has been one of the most popular torture devices.
Well, the reason I asked that question is because at some point when the sewer system becomes operational, then some of the operational stuff, wouldn't that go to the select board if they're acting as the sewer commissioners? Whereas the looking ahead stuff would stay here? That's why I'm bringing it up, because I'm trying to understand where those timelines cross.
Well,
And that-
we're in
Mr.
phase
Bishop's
one,
question.
we're in phase one now, we've got a good 8 phases to go, so I think we anticipated having an advisory committee to help continue to move this project along, and a lot of the sewer commission type operational issues, the actual assessments of the betterments, those are the things that will hold this like that. So RAC will continue to be a plan in that.
I mean, it serves at the pleasure currently, right? We're not in any bylaws or codes, right, to exist. We have no real fiduciary responsibility other than to advise. Select, if they want to formalize that along the way, just at some point, it's really.
But the opposite isn't true. In other words, the select board isn't looking to absorb whatever this committee does after the operational phase of this project begins, right? Because all this is great, except that no one's flushing anything into anything and it's not going anywhere. But once we get to that, which is, let's just say 2027, I'll just pick a number. It would make sense then that maybe the role of this committee and the role of the select board in this process would change. Because we're gonna have an operational system versus all of us sitting in a room and talking about traffic delays, right? Like, there's a big difference.
But Mike, yes and no.
Okay.
Technically, you're right, but truthfully, we will have, with everything going perfectly well in 3 years, I don't know, pick a number, maybe 1,000 customers out of a potential, 10,000 customers? We got a long, long way to go as a town. And there'll be issue after issue after issue, many of which we can't anticipate.
Of course.
I've sat on this committee 6 years now, and I see it as, if you will my words, a shock absorber, a cushion between the public and the selectmen and the operational people, the engineers. We learn from them, we transmit each of us in our own way to our constituency and our neighborhoods. I like to think it served a pretty useful purpose.
Oh, absolutely.
And I suspect it will for a long time to come. The town is just in its infancy as far as, getting a substantial wastewater project going. So having the treatment plant and treatment plant, puts us in business, but that's all.
Sure.
You hung a sign over the business.
Okay. Flush away for those 1,000 people. Okay.
Last bit of housekeeping, should we be involved in local comprehensive plan? This hearing's starting this week.
The first one's till Wednesday.
Anybody participate in the local comprehensive plan?
Well, that's why you had me. You mean I'm on planning board, that's what we're about to do.
Right, I mean.
I don't know, more people the better.
I plug in as a citizen on occasion, but I don't necessarily plug in as a director. So I started asking, is this something that we would want to at least participate in to some degree? Is there a role for us? Do we want to be a sewer community? Is that what this goes on at the LCP meeting?
I couldn't even begin to answer that question.
Right. So I was planning to just attend and be where we're at on it.
Sure, and if there's anything that we could do at the planning board, if maybe the consultants that were hired to help run LCP could come here in the future. And maybe there could be a discussion more specific to the issues and the concerns of this group as the plan is getting put together. All right.
Well, I'll see you on the 3rd and see if.
All right. Do you think that's a good use of this
But
committee's
they're
time?
gonna have, there's so many different components.
Yes.
To the comprehensive plan that they're gonna be conducting public outreach on.
Sure.
And, a lot of the issues with the comprehensive plan are really gonna be fed, informed, driven by the public infrastructure. And so I think there's gonna be a tremendous amount of opportunity to get involved, especially with respect to, the timeframes, what to expect and things. And but I think, the planning board's got a real challenge on, figuring out, you know, we have all of the perfect example. The studies that indicate that there's over $100 million worth of pent-up private investment that the lack of this public infrastructure was serving as an obstacle for. Now, if, you know, that begins to start happening fast, is hopefully, you know, we're gonna be prepared as a community to have the planning and the zoning in place to be able to deal with that to the greatest extent possible. And I mean, that's just, you know, one example of a great challenge that sort of lines up what RAC's doing, what the planning board's doing, and that's why it's great to have the planning board on this committee as well.
Okay, so for anybody else who wants to participate, April 3rd, Wednesday, Town Hall, 5:30 p.m. And it's online.
Yeah.
If you want to just plug in. It'll be more than one session.
Oh, yeah, this is just literally the kickoff meeting.
Mhm.
And then there's there's new kickoff meetings in the NFL. We're not gonna go there.
This is the real torture. Local comprehensive plan. Because when you're done, somebody else has to approve it, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, there's all kinds.
Okay. If there's nothing else, guys want to go home? Motion to adjourn.
Second,
All in favor? David?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Mary? Lee?
Aye.
Will?
hi.
John? And myself. Thanks so much, guys, for.
So when is the next meeting?
Say again?
May 6th.
May 6th.
May 6th, Monday.